Yeah, no, it absolutely felt like a really safe space. And I think to just a space where I think one of my biggest takeaways is that we don't need to pathologize messiness. I think as a physician, as a mom, as all of these things, as women entrepreneurs tend to be, when things are messy, as they often are in an early stage startup, it feels immediately like there is, something that you need to be doing better or something that you're doing wrong. And I think a lot of the being able to just openly ask questions and get very transparent answers back was a lot of the normalization around like, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like. It is okay. Let's like remove the, oh gosh, this looks messy, and be like, yes, this is what happens. And this is how you think about it. And this is how you would think about it for next time. And so, yeah, I absolutely feel like it was very, very open in that way.
This is Inspiring Women, and I am very excited because we're having another episode of the Homeward Grown Mentoring Program. So we have Dr. Jenny Schneider, and she is the CEO and founder of Homeward. And we have Dr. Sipra Laddha, who is the CEO and co-founder of LunaJoy. And we're going to be talking about Sipra's experience with this mentoring program. It's a little bit different in terms of what's being done with Homeward. And doctors Jenny and Sipra, I'm so happy to be talking to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Laurie.
Jenny, let's we've done this before. This is the second in the series with Homeward Grown, and it's a two-part program that you've created. You are an exceptionally busy CEO and founder and high growth, well-decorated person in this industry. Yet this was a very purposeful program that you put together when you launched it last year, Homeward Grown. Tell us about the mentoring program.
Yes. Well, again, thanks for hosting us here. I'm excited for Sipra to share her story and her journey about her companies. The highlight here, Homeward Grown actually has two different parts. One is an internal investment for female leaders who are up and coming. We talk about development topics such as we just did one on presenting, we did one on negotiating, and we do some exposure to other people in the industry, and that's internal. Equally, I'm very invested in female founders, and there are not enough of us in the ecosystem, in the healthcare ecosystem. And those of us that have been in the ecosystem have a lot of scars that are useful to others. And so creating this environment to be able to have frank conversations from A to Z, whatever it is that you need help with, is really the intention of the Homeward Grown mentoring program. And as such, I mentor 4 people a year, one for each quarter, but with endless access from there on out, but really structured format to really just address and answer questions that are top of mind for female founders at their stage of their journey for their particular company. And so this last quarter, I had a chance to work with Sipra, and from my vantage point, it was so exciting to get to choose Sipra to come in, because not only is she an incredibly thoughtful entrepreneur, but she's also a practicing physician, and so lives firsthand what that real life component is in the clinic. And so really excited for Sipra and her journey, and she'll tell you more about LunaJoy.
Yeah, well, I want to get into all of that, but I also want to pause for just one second, because one of the things that we know about just in terms of women in leadership and building companies is that it's hard, and it's extra hard if you're a woman. There's not enough of them. There's not enough of you who are being successful in what you do. And Jenny, for you to actually, as somebody who has done it more than once, to actually take the time to bring others with you is, I think, the leadership journey that the reason we're showcasing it here on Inspiring Women is we want others to understand this program and hopefully mimic it, because it's so incredibly both compelling and important. So Sipra, you have an amazing journey. And, as I look into your background, I want to know everything about LunaJoy, but just maybe if you give us a little bit of your bio sketch. I mean, I understand it's like, medicine chose you, is, how you talk about how you got into medicine in the first place.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think I've always been doomed to be a doctor, like since before I was and love every part of it. But yeah, so I'm Sipra Laddha. I'm a reproductive psychiatrist by training. So originally from New York, moved to Atlanta for training, have been here for the last almost 10 years. And really focused my time prior to starting LunaJoy on psychiatry, on pregnancy, postpartum related mental health care, and worked both in private practice as well as the health system. I think I really got to see a lot of the women's mental health issues up close and personal, treating patients within a system, treating patients outpatient. But probably the biggest defining portion of my journey was really the journey to motherhood myself. So I was a resident when I was pregnant with twins. They were monodi, high-risk twins. And so that was the time that I was getting my perinatal specialization. And it was just a really riveting time for me because I was going through, my own health journey, my own mental health journey. And then I was also taking care of moms that were pregnant and postpartum, and just started to recognize some really key holes around women getting access to care. I certainly found myself at 6 months postpartum in the midst of postpartum depression and anxiety that had really started during pregnancy, kind of wondering the whole time, the whole journey, when I was going to get screened, when someone was going to offer help, when I was supposed to try to find this help. And, even when I was trying to find the help, like all the barriers that I had, even with a ton of resources, and then watching my patients kind of struggle, where the wait time to get into clinic was over a year for often, a lot of patients. And I still wasn't even seeing the majority of people that needed to get in and get access. So that was a long time ago. It was 10 years ago. My twins are about to turn 10 in 2 weeks, which is wild. And, I had two more singletons after that and went through very similar journeys, just in different settings. And it's really what inspired me to build LunaJoy, to really build around this pain point that we have in reproductive psychiatry, bring OB care and family medicine care together with psychiatry, to use technology in order to get information and data back and forth in order to do care navigation, and then deliver really specialized care to this population that often, the statistics are horrible, but that don't get the care that they need.
Sipra, what just reproductive psychology, like
Okay.
mental health, we all are hearing mental health every day, but where does this begin? Where does this end? And what are the issues that require sort of a specialized approach to mental health care?
Yeah. So this actually begins a lot earlier than people think it begins. When we talk about postpartum depression, we're often thinking about just after delivery, but reproductive psychiatry actually begins from the moment that that person is thinking about conceiving or getting pregnant, through a fertility and fertility journey, through thinking through what a pregnancy might look like. And so really kind of preparing that woman to have the best possible outcome. So if they already have depression, anxiety, or other disorders, really optimizing that journey for them, screening proactively during pregnancy. Now the new ACOG guidelines, we're supposed to be asking every single trimester instead of just waiting till the train has already left the station. But really any woman that's pregnant, postpartum, thinking about conceiving, is in some journey to conceive, is what I think about as reproductive psychiatry. And we want to be starting these conversations as early as possible.
That is great. So when did you hear about the Homeward Grown program? And, how did this happen? How did this connection between you and Jenny actually happen, get selected, all that?
Yeah, so I actually went through Y Combinator in 2022, and it was just such a great community. I think it was probably one of my biggest early accelerants to going from being a practicing physician that was seeing the same problem over and over and over again to having a scaled solution that we were iterating and, out in the market and testing. And the one thing that I took from that is like community was probably, I learned a lot. It's an interesting time. There's an interesting set of people that you're around, but really having that community of other innovators and group partners was like the number one kind of key to our success over those 3 transformative months. And so after we left YC, I had been looking for more of those experiences. I think just looking for like that same power, that exists when you have people around you that have been there, that have done it, that are willing to share. And I saw a post by Nikita, who is, a fellow YC founder, and she had just written it up so beautifully in terms of her time with Jenny and what was valuable about it. And as soon as I read the post, I immediately put down in my list of things
I want some of that.
I want to find out about this program. When are they having their next cohort? How do I apply? when I remember like the day that the application became available, I was like, okay, I have to go get it taken care of. And there were probably 25 things on my to-do list. So it was just really high priority for me to find out more about the program, to participate in the program that, if I could. And I think it really just embodied a lot of that mentorship that I had been looking for, a lot of the mentorship that I hope to be able to give as well.
Yep. And Jenny, so, I mean, you get lots of these applications and reach out. So what stood out to you about Sipra that you thought that this will be a great place to invest time and energy?
It's a really great question. And again, one of the joys that I have is actually getting to read the applications, because I get a sense not only who's in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, but the types of problems they're trying to tackle. And so for me, it's a combination of getting to think through both the person and the problem. And what for me do I think one is, can I get behind, and can I find a joy, and what do I think I can actually uniquely help with? Because there are certain things that I might not be great at. And so it's a little bit of a one-way matchmaking mission, if you will. And as I said to you, so certainly maternal health is something, I'm a mom of three. Those many of us who listen or are on your podcast, Laurie, are mothers. And so I think that touches a lot of heartstrings, but also recognize the need in that ecosystem. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm particularly proud of and fond of physicians who become entrepreneurs, because the training you get as a physician, you are intimate with the existing healthcare ecosystem, and you have to totally go and create something different given your experience. And so this idea around having personal connections, and Sipra talked about hers, but also understanding that ecosystem and what works, because it's not all bad, but what doesn't work is, I think, a really key component of successful entrepreneurs. And you can be a physician or surround yourself with the knowledge. But again, those were the things that made me really excited to have a chance to work with Sipra.
Yeah. And, look, I want to throw into this conversation almost a little bit of, personal behind the scenes information. I was excited about this as well, from that physician entrepreneur connection, but also as a mother, as a new grandmother with a daughter who is going through some of the things that Sipra, you're talking about in terms of the issues. So I'm hearing all of your very professional sounding words and descriptions about reproductive psychology and mental health, but I am thinking about that in a really personal way. So one of the things I really wanted to ask both of you in terms of the things that you connected on from a, whether it was just open conversations, what did the mentorship, experience, what did it look like this time? Was it, Sipra, maybe from your perspective, was it similar to other mentorship experiences you've had, or was it different? And if it was different, how was it different?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the deepest mentorship experiences that I had, and I really appreciated that, because I feel like I brought new and different problems to every session with Jenny, and she was always just ready to tackle whatever it was that I was going to throw at her. And the other thing that I really appreciated is it really did feel like a space where we can, kind of take off all the ways that we're supposed to show up and present ourselves as infallible and having all the answers and the expert in the room, and really just be able to talk honestly about some of the pain points, about where we're struggling, and both personal and professional. I think, especially as women, I know I spend a lot of time making sure that I'm well compartmentalized, and that when I'm doing work, I'm doing work, and when I'm doing home, I'm doing home. But, certainly being an entrepreneur is not separate from having a family and running my household, and, the responsibilities of having 4 kids, and just figuring out not even balance, because there is no balance, but just integration, and how to really make sure that we're aligning priorities with what's important to the business and what's important to me personally. So, I think there was mentorship around a lot of different topics, which I found to be very helpful. And what I really appreciated is that there was depth and really transparency in every session.
How'd you go to every conversation? Did you come with a laundry list, the Hey Jenny list, or what was important to you to bring to those conversations? And Jenny, what were your expectations, and how were those either met or, changed based on how things evolved during your time together?
Yeah, so I did a combination of both, and I'm curious what Jenny has to say about this, but I did prepare for every session. I wanted to make sure that I used the time really effectively. And so I always had a list of like 4 or 5 things that I wanted to address, or a cluster of things that I'd been thinking about and wanting to get feedback on. And then always kind of left a little bit of time at the end to ask Jenny probably like an overly open-ended question just to see how she would respond and where she went with that. And so I think we got a good mix of having structure, and then also like, I took pages and pages of notes, and I'm not usually a note taker, but I did find almost everything to be really, really valuable.
Yeah. And so from my viewpoint, and Sipra talked about this, like I think so often as an entrepreneur, when you're learning, and we're all learning all the time, you're surrounded by people that you're also trying to impress. So I think about like you have a board of directors and they're often investors, which means you're going to pitch them in another round. And so like even your board meetings, while you're talking about business problems, you're also always still selling. And I think when you're wearing your selling hat, it is hard to kind of say, hey, look, this is really broken. I don't know what to do here. And this format allows a trust or a different venue to just like raise your hand and say, look, these are the things that I love your thoughts on, I'm not sure about, without having any judgment, without having any repercussion around the role that you're playing. And so for me, and Sipra knows this, it's like, I don't really care what the question is like, and this is intended not for me, but for Sipra. And so it's like, it can be anything in a spectrum. And Sipra did that. And that was like, to me, what is successful. It's not, I read this academic article and, what do you think about the positioning and X, Y, or Z? It's like, actually, like, no, today I woke up and like these, like 3 people told me they're going to quit because they said like, it's like the tactical to the strategic. It's just everything that you go through as a founder and an entrepreneur. And when you're going even multiple times, there's still, you want a sounding board in that. And so to me, success just looks like showing up and asking the things that are top of mind that you could use a sounding board on. That's it.
Yep. I also think, one of the point you just made about boards, because like all boards and all investors are, I mean, they mean it when they say they're here to support you and everything else. And that is true. That is true. To not 100% all the way there because of exactly what you just said, Jenny. You're always selling, you're needing to make sure that you're sharp and that you can handle the unexpected or the difficult things. So Sipra, did it feel like just like a safe space for you? That's what I'm kind of assuming. It's like you could like let your guard down a little bit and, ask the, whether it was prepared questions or not, but a little bit of just like, I'm struggling here. I don't know if that, you tell me.
Yeah, no, it absolutely felt like a really safe space. And I think to just a space where I think one of my biggest takeaways is that we don't need to pathologize messiness. I think as a physician, as a mom, as all of these things, as women entrepreneurs tend to be, when things are messy, as they often are in an early stage startup, it feels immediately like there is, something that you need to be doing better or something that you're doing wrong. And I think a lot of the being able to just openly ask questions and get very transparent answers back was a lot of the normalization around like, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like. It is okay. Let's like remove the, oh gosh, this looks messy, and be like, yes, this is what happens. And this is how you think about it. And this is how you would think about it for next time. And so, yeah, I absolutely feel like it was very, very open in that way.
And so Sipra, were you able to take those mentoring sessions and immediately put them to work inside your company? How did that work? And how were you able to, whether you did or you didn't, I just love to know how that translated to helping you build your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like many things were really actionable, and a lot of things were just like different ways of thinking about, situations or problems or questions that we were having. And so after almost every single session with Jenny, I wrote like a little TLDR to my co-founder Shema, because we've switched
TLD. Okay.
It's basically
too long. Don't read. I'd like,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I need to keep up with the lingo. Okay.
Yes, because she always wanted to know like what was the takeaway from Jenny, but didn't want to hear, my 45-minute like run through all of my specific notes.
Yeah.
And I think really to both of us, it was very helpful, even in terms of like conceptualizing problems or thinking about things differently. And, it certainly like changed a lot of the ways that we even started evaluating certain candidates for positions that were open and things like that. So yeah, I think it was very actionable.
Yep. And then Jenny, the thing that, like, again, you know how much I admire you putting this program together as just like an example for others. I just, nothing in your life, things have only gotten busier, right? Your company continues to grow. You continue to take on additional activities, whether they're board positions or other. So just tell me about like how your energy level sort of like, was there for this program, whether you're just like, oh gosh, did this ever become a task for you? Like, I can't believe I have this on my calendar today.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and I know you are as well, Laurie, that like when you say something matters, it's nice to say it, but you should take action against it or it doesn't really matter. And which is why I think you have this podcast. And so this idea, like we all would generally agree, there's not enough women entrepreneurs, there's not enough women being backed by venture. Agree. But very few people actually then do something about it. And so this is to me the do something about it. So when I stop caring about those things, then I probably won't do anything about them. But I continue to care about those things. So I continue to do something about them.
Okay. And there's something about Jenny. I mean, Sipra, you already know this. There's some endless energy pill that look, some people have it, and Jenny certainly does. Sipra, it's a program that has a beginning and it has time and then it has an end. And so it's at the ending point now. So how are you going to keep that sort of like goodness that came out of this experience for what you still might want or need as a CEO growing a company?
Yeah, and I already kind of like set the frame with Jenny, I think, at the last meeting, which was like, I would love to touch base with you in 3 or 4 months and continue that cadence. And so kind of already bookmarked that I'm probably going to be taking a little bit more of her time over time. And I have a little notebook and I still come up with questions and I kind of put it in my list of things that I want to ask Jenny about. And so when I do have those touch bases or when I compile enough of those things, sending off an email, but I definitely have not seen this as short term and hope to be asking Jenny questions for many years.
Yep.
And I actually want to make another statement, which is so Sipra is giving forward as well. And I know that because she and I were both on a female entrepreneurship panel at our alma mater, Johns Hopkins. And so it was so wonderful to see Sipra, who's raising 4 children and building a business, also paying forward her own experiences in the ecosystem to other interested females. So again, it speaks to this generative power and the flywheel of starting to do something, and then it starts to continue to expand so we can, do what we all collectively want to do in the ecosystem.
I wanted to ask you both about sort of the secret powers of, both being, this intersectionality of being entrepreneurs, being business people, being physicians, and being mothers. I think, we spend a lot of time in Inspiring Women talking about what things might be sort of, tropes or obstacles or, just issues in terms of biases that are out there. Yet just the way you talk about it, Sipra, in terms of like how you created LunaJoy, and Jenny, certainly, how you talk about yourself. It's mom first before anything else. I just love your thoughts on like the superpowers that those things that you are, how those help you build your businesses. Because I feel like we don't talk about that enough. We talk about the issues, but we don't talk about the power of it. I just love your thoughts on that.
I'm happy to start. So I'm biased. I'm very biased here, but I think the opportunity to be a mom for me has been the single most developing characteristic to be a successful entrepreneur, because I am the CEO of my household. I am every day inventing and trying new things with teenage children who are themselves testing and trying new things. I have a lot of failures. I have some successes, and every day I get back up and I do it again. And to me, that is the journey of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that motherhood, and not to like overly simplify it, but I think about that first year that I had twins where I was a resident working like 60 to 80 hours a week, and they would both be up in the middle of the night and crying and need things all day. And like, if there's ever a lesson in really just figuring out how to prioritize, get stuff done, figure out what's important, figure out what's going to kill you, what's not going to kill you, what you can wait until tomorrow to do, what you must do right now. I do think it is a lot of those like early and middle and later learnings of motherhood. And then I think the other thing is there is this quality, and I'm going to generalize, but when I see physician entrepreneurs, when I see female and mother entrepreneurs, I think that there's this quality of relentlessness that serves us very well, where, if I'm doing something, I am all in because my time is really valuable. And so if I'm going to put time towards it, like I'm there 100%, I'm going to take it to the end. And that's, I feel like, the same energy that I've brought to LunaJoy. I think it's part of the reason that we have scaled so quickly and that we have built so quickly. We are 2.5, almost 3 years into our journey. We've seen over 3,000 patients. We're in 7 states. And I think part of the reason that we've had that success, my co-founder is a physician entrepreneur as well, and mom of 2 kiddos. And I think we've just been super, super focused about being focused and moving the needle and really not wasting a minute, because there are no minutes to waste. So
Yep. Well, I love that. And again, just, as somebody who is newly speaking with the lens of a grandmother, looking at my daughter, trying to put all these pieces together in her life. And maybe she'll be a LunaJoy patient, just as she figures things out right now. But let's just close out on a couple comments. Sipra, I'd love to know, just as you move forward and build LunaJoy, what you're taking from this experience that you think is the advice you want other CEOs to know, what they should be looking for in mentorship that really is powerful for you to be the CEO that you are today and expect to be tomorrow.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what I would want other people to know who are thinking about entrepreneurship and all of that is like sharing support actually doesn't take a lot of time. It's like no more kind of off of your beacon of things that you were doing to give 5 minutes or to give 7 minutes to someone else, or even just to respond to an email or tell someone that you like their idea. I think a lot of the reason, again, that we've gotten to the place that we've gotten is because we have had the right mentorship and the right, honestly, female entrepreneurs that we've been able to surround ourselves with that have just nudged us in the right direction, or even just said, keep going. Like sometimes you just need to hear a keep going. I know all of these 7 things are really difficult, but like, it's okay. It's one difficult day, just keep going. And so I think lending any of that, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to have like the right answer to whatever that colossal question is that person is trying to answer. But just showing up and giving a little bit of time, advice, or support in any way, I think really goes a long way.
Awesome. And Jenny, your thoughts? I mean, just as you continue to build this program and you think about your next cohort, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think, I think it's easier to be a mentor than it is to be a mentee. And I think there's an art to being a mentee. And I would highlight Sipra around understanding what it is that you want to get out of the time with someone else. And we should all be good mentees because we all have people from whom we can learn. And so that approach and that attitude, I think, is really important, and being proactive in that for me too. I think for all of us, I think that's, when I think about mentorship, we often think about the mentor, but I think the onus and kind of the to maximize, it's what does the mentee want to get out of the relationship, and what do they bring into the relationship? What types of questions? How do they want to kind of leverage that? I think it's something we don't talk enough about in the ecosystem.
Well, I think in this conversation, there is a lot of rich advice from both sides of the mentorship equation. And Sipra, it really sounds like you were excellent to have had this opportunity, but what you're taking, bringing it towards LunaJoy, as well as your giving of your own time to others, is amazing. Because I know you don't have time. And that's what, to me, I like the flywheel effect that this is creating. So I just want to thank you both. This has been an unbelievable Inspiring Women conversation. We have been talking about the Homeward Grown mentoring series. I've been speaking with Dr. Sipra Laddha and Dr. Jenny Schneider, and thank you both so much.
Thank you, Laurie, for all that you do, and congratulations on being a grandmother. I did not know that. So that was my favorite fun fact from this.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been an episode of Inspiring Women with Laurie McGraw. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are produced by Kate Cruz at Executive Podcast Solutions. More episodes can be found on inspiringwomen.show. I am Laurie McGraw, and thank you for listening.